It's our bi-weekly catch-up with Christina Brady from Blacktower Financial Management. Afternoon, Christina.
Good afternoon.
The Bank of England governor has been upsetting things by saying that they could become a bit more aggressive in cutting interest rates if inflation continues to cool.
Yep, so it's gone down from over 120 that we saw on the 1st of October to about 118, I think it is the moment, 118.86. So if you get paid in sterling or you've sold a house in the UK and you're bringing it over, that's not good because obviously 120 is a lot better. However, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what the Bank of England governor says. The EU headline inflation is 1.8%, they're saying, which is below the 2% target for the first time in 3 years. And that also means that the ECB could aggressively cut rates, which means that the euro would get weaker against sterling. So we could see 120 or above again, which is nothing to do with what's going on in the UK, but
it's a bit
down
strange
to what the EU are doing with rates.
I was going to say, because it's a little bit weird, isn't it, given that all we've been hearing about is the big debt that France has and how badly Germany's doing, the two biggest economies struggling, and yet it doesn't seem to be having a massive effect as such.
You know, Macron has come out today and he said the EU could die.
Yeah.
He's issued dire warnings about the EU bloc's economy. He's saying it's overregulated and underinvested. And I have to agree with him there. In my job, the regulations that the EU are bringing in are meaning that I would say 75% of my time now is spent doing paperwork. It's meant to be a paperless society, but how many forms when clients come to do business has gone from one form to about 10 forms, and an application form which was maybe 5 pages is now 25 pages. And it's becoming absolutely ridiculous. It's a burden. It's means you can't work efficiently. And even Draghi issued a warning that said the EU cannot compete with US and China, which is true. You know, US is looking to deregulate. China, what regulations do they have? The EU, I think, is just like, it loves paperwork. It loves giving people jobs to do, even if there are no jobs.
Well, the bigger a beast gets, I suppose, the more paperwork there is. Mario Draghi, you mentioned there, who was pretty much the saviour of the EU whilst he was working with them, has now produced this report. And it's not gone down well in all quarters. And, of course, Macron's got something to chew on there, because he's got to work out his own situation at home. He's been struggling. He's got an issue with the government there. The finances are CRAP. So, you can understand why he'll latch on to anything, won't he? Yeah.
Macron's trying to deflect from his own problems. He has made a complete mess of everything. And France, as you said, is not good. Germany is not good. And we could see inflation rise anyway. If the conflict in the Middle East escalates, we've also got a drought in Central America, which has mean that shipping goods has become more expensive.
That drought hasn't made a great deal of headlines in Europe so far, has it?
I know, it's been kept very, very quiet, but it is going to have an impact, because obviously it means that goods are more scarce, so the price is going to go up. Middle East, as we said, price of oil has risen. It's climbed to $76 a barrel on Wednesday, and some analysts are saying it could be $80 within a few days. However, Saudi Arabia have come out and said that they have a glut of oil and they may start exporting more to bring the price back down. So that's quite a big variable there, so we'll have to wait and see. But if you
across Europe and the FTSE, not really too bothered. There have been some falls today across Europe, but generally, not reacting in the same way as we've previously seen the markets react to situations in the Middle East, which got a whole lot worse in the past few days, of course.
Yeah. If you look at the markets, the FTSE's flat. Europe, we've got the CAC and DAX down nearly 1%. But that's nothing if you compare to what's the volatility that's going on, around the world. If you consider the tension in the Middle East, as we said, Central America, which has been kept quiet. We've got the problems in the EU with certain countries. We've got the uncertainty in America. We've got China, which people are very loath to invest in, even though it looks cheap at the moment, because they don't know what's on the horizon, because because the figures are never good. And if we've had quite a lot of volatility recently, especially for my job, but even despite that volatility, one sector has still outperformed everything else, and that is technology. We read in the papers each day, technology's gone down. There's the Nvidia isn't doing so well. However, if you look at the returns for 2024, technology, if you look at the Magnificent Seven, which include Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, etc., that is up over 40% in terms of performance. And if you look at other markets, gold isn't even up, hasn't even performed up to 30%. Oil is actually down nearly 10%. So we've invested in oil. We've got India, which has done quite well, and global technology rather than the American Magnificent Seven. That's done well as well. But we read all these things in the paper. Is the tech bubble about to burst? Because we saw that before. I'm not so sure. These companies are doing very, very well. I'm not sure about companies that concentrate solely on AI. I think we've got a Nvidia which is has really cornered the market in AI. However, as we know, when someone does that, there's usually companies that come up quite quickly and challenge their dominance in that market. So we'll have to wait and see. But for anyone investing at the moment,
well, OpenAI, aren't they? They're raising about $6.6 billion in funding, valued about $157 billion. Of course, this is the startup behind ChatGPT, which wasn't a for-profit business, but now is going to be.
Yeah, so we're going to have to see if another company comes on the market that can challenge them and is doing very well, then we'll see their share price fall. But at the moment, they're called the Magnificent Seven. That is Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Tesla. Tesla's quite volatile because, as we know, Elon Musk says different things.
He could be back in court again today, couldn't he, for how X, or what was known as Twitter, hasn't been performing in the way that it was previously. I think he sacked about 80% of the compliance staff when he started. Just looked at where the biggest bill was, I think, and went, right, we'll cut that. But so they haven't been perhaps performing in that area as well as they might since they've been called X, and he took over and he missed a court appearance, didn't he, in the States? They're hoping he'll show up today.
I don't think he's too bothered. I really don't. But what you have to remember is at the moment technology is at the floor. But if you look over time, winners change through in time. If you look just like, what should we say, 2010, okay, the top companies were China and commodities. So you had Exxon, you had BHP, you had lots and lots, Nestle, Royal Dutch Shell, China Construction Company. In the 2000s, we had the technology bubble. We had Microsoft there. We had Walmart. These aren't in the top 10 anymore.
Since the pandemic, it's mostly been since the pandemic, Big Pharma and the techs, as you mentioned.
It has. So the question is, how much longer is this going to carry on? We don't know. Obviously, we had a crystal ball. We'd all be multi-millionaires.
Well, that's it. If we could work out what was going on with this market volatility, then we'd only have to do it for a bit, and then we'd be rich and not have to do it anymore.
Yeah, but you've got an example. If you look at a company called Cisco, which from years ago was a really, really, in the 2000s, it was trading, it was overvalued by about 60% to sales, and it's never, ever come back. The price has just dropped and dropped. And Nvidia, it looks cheap. It's basically, it is valued at 27 times sales, but still that is not cheap. So Cisco has never, ever hit its peak that was in the early 2000s. So you have to be very, very careful what you're going to do and what you're going to invest in. But I think there's still some more headway on the tech markets. And I know there's been lots of talk about, will this bubble burst? But at the moment, there is so much drive.
AI is still driving. It's still driving it,
yeah,
absolutely, for a while.
So I think we've still got that drive in the market. So just beware. And the main thing I think you have to say, and I have to say for everyone, wherever you're investing, is diversify. Never put all your eggs in one basket. I know it sounds like an old saying, but it's true. As we saw in 2007, 2008, lots of people had put all their money in property thinking the returns were going to carry on forever, and suddenly they were asset rich and cash poor. They had no cash. They couldn't sell their properties. Some of them were destitute. You've got to make sure that you've got a very, very good mix. And if you are investing in the markets, diversify is key. So if one market doesn't perform so well, unless there's a global downturn, you're going to, compensate in other markets. Mm-hmm. And I think that really is key, especially if you are new to the markets. Make sure whatever you go into is quite diversified. And at Blacktower, we always look to diversify as much as possible within a client's risk profile.
Christina Brady from Blacktower Financial Management with us this afternoon, looking at the world of finance and business and investments. And let's start then where we left off with property. Been seeing some reports about the second home market, the buy-to-let market in Britain, especially in coastal areas, starting to look a little bit different than it has in recent years. People starting to worry about that budget coming up at the end of the month in Britain, I think.
I think they are, and I think rightly so. If Labour get their way, second homeowners are going to be penalised, and people who rent out property. They seem to have a bee in their bonnet about the rental market. They're going to make it harder. They're going to increase capital gains tax when you sell properties. So people are looking to offload. And at the moment, it's a buyer's market in the UK. House prices across the board have fallen by about 5%, even though mortgage rates have come down. And I think it could fall even further. So it's very, very difficult in the UK. The problem is governments always look for someone to blame when they have problems. So in the UK, they're looking at various things. They've got this alleged black hole of 22 billion, which no one can account for, and now Labour have stopped mentioning because I think it was made up.
Well, they were called out, weren't they? They were called out by the Tory party conference.
By the civil service.
Yeah.
Everyone's called them out. So they've screwed over pensioners by getting rid of their winter fuel allowance, which is only £300 per person, even though Keir Starmer has taken 500 quid in free gifts every day since he's got into power.
He's just given a load back, hasn't he? He just gave a load back,
only
apparently.
6,000, if not 107,000 he got prior to this year. So yep. The UK, yes, and even if you look at Spain, the Spanish government has been blaming people that rent out their properties for the problems that are going on in Spain as well. They always look to someone. But if you look in Spain, we had Pedro Sanchez. It was over 180 days ago that he said he was scrapping the golden visa. Yet Spain keeps on running into obstacles. He hasn't managed to do this.
He hasn't been able to get it through.
To tag it onto other bills.
Yeah, it's getting it through Parliament. That's the problem.
Keeps on trying to tag it on. But every time he tries to tag it on the bill, suddenly that bill hasn't got enough support to move forward. So at the moment, the golden visas are here. There's been a rush of people to try and get visas. Most of them the rush has been from Chinese people, unfortunately. Oh, I shouldn't say that, but it's not Europeans or US or UK people. So the problem isn't because of Brexit or anything to do with that.
But mind you, that said,
in Spain,
the new data here, as we heard on the news on BayRadio International the other morning, shows that British nationals remain the main foreign property buyers in Spain.
Yeah, second half of 2024, they accounted for nearly 15% of all property sales and purchases in Spain. And in purchases, UK buyers make up the largest number at 8.4%, followed by the Germans at 7% and French at 5.2%. And according to the latest population figures, nearly 300,000 Brits live in Spain permanently. That's legally. I'm sure there's some.
That's what's on the Padron, right? Yeah, they're the only the ones that are on the Padron. Yeah, okay.
And the main places to buy are the Balearic Islands, where a third of properties have been bought by non-Spanish. Canary Islands with 31%. Next is the Valencia region, which is at 28.8%, followed by Murcia at 23.6%, and Andalusia is down the bottom at 13.7%. But it still shows that Spain is still very popular with the Brits. And I think with Labour coming into power, if they do crack down on the middle classes, and especially on pensioners, and especially increasing capital gains tax, we are going to see those that meet visa requirements for a non-lucrative visa, which I think for a married couple is around having to have an income from non-work-related sources of at least 33,000 euros. We are going to see a lot of people moving here to escape what is going to be a punitive tax system in the UK.
And that's despite EVA or VAT going back on those food items that we've had respite from for the last couple of years.
Yep, Spain is still very popular. You can understand why if you compare it to the UK. You know, most areas are safe. We've got good weather. It's cheaper than the UK. There's a lot going for it, and the Spanish are very welcoming most of the time. Obviously, we've had these protests against tourists, but the ones in the Canary Islands were organised by a British man who lived there. So it's not necessarily the Spanish that are complaining so much. However, I have to say that I live in Javier, and this year there were just too many people here. It cannot carry on growing. The roads can't support it. The infrastructure can't support it. And it's not only here. If you look at even inland a bit, they had more tourists than ever before. And the Spanish tourist figures have come out to actually say, yes, that is true. You know, tourism in Spain was at its highest level. Yeah.
And still rising, continuing to rise for 2024 and probably next year as well. But we're not quite sure what the right model is that everybody's going to agree on for it to sort itself out.
No, we need tourists. We need them, you know. Business, if you look in Mallorca, when they did all the protests and tourists didn't come so much, the bars didn't make money, quite a few bars closed, and there was all this thing, we don't want British tourists. But when they didn't come, the spending was down significantly, and we had a huge number of bars in Mallorca closing and restaurants because they just didn't have people eating. The Brits, when they come abroad, they tend to eat earlier in the day. So most of them go to the restaurants at 5, 6, 7. The Spanish, etc., don't go out to eat till 9 or 10. So if you're going to get rid of the Brits, you've got no one eating out till later in the evening.
Well, there's also the fact that other countries, Northern European countries, generally, they when they come to Spain, they don't eat out, a lot of them.
No, they don't. They eat in, and also Spanish do. They tend to have family meals at home, whereas British people like to go out. They like the socialising. So I think countries that are against tourists have to be very, very careful. And obviously, you can only take so many before your country can't take any more. But you have to understand that they are, especially in Spain, the main generator of revenue for most of the people that live in Spain.
But there are the knock-on effects, as we've seen, and a lot of that's been driven by the nomad visa and people buying properties since the pandemic and moving and living here on European wages, which means that people locally just can't compete because wages in Southern Europe are just nowhere near what they are in the north. But let's look at something else that you mentioned when we were preparing for today. The UK odds of winning on premium bonds, have they got better?
Oh, gosh, no, they haven't. They haven't. Right. It says here, if you invest in £1,000 in premium bonds, you will have to wait around 3,500 years for a 50-50 chance of winning £1,000.
Right. Well, we've got my grands, though. We've got my grands. So does that still count? Do those years still count, I wonder? Our grandchildren might win something.
Listen to the odds for winning the jackpot, 1 million jackpot. A 50-50 chance of winning a 1 million jackpot on the premium ones would require a staggering wait of 3.5 million years.
What?
So anyone that's holding on to your premium bonds, they said, even if you max out your holdings to 50,000, you are, the most chance you've got is winning 1,000. So those who've been holding on to their premium bonds, it's really not a good return on capital. Basically, the value of those bonds has gone down dramatically because of the way inflation has eaten into them. However, that people get them because they think they're secure. They are protected by the UK government, so you can always get your money back. But you could have gone into NS&I saving bonds, which are government protected, and they're offering 4%. It's not a lot, but they're offering 4%, which is more than you'll ever get with premium bonds. Or even Blacktower, we've got capital guaranteed products that are sterling at the moment are paying between 4 and 5% guaranteed for the next 3 to 5 years. So that is a better place to put your money than in premium bonds. So anyone who thinks, premium bonds, they're the right way to go. But they are, for a certain extent, because they're not. There's no risk to your capital as they're backed by the UK Treasury.
Yeah, they used to be a thing, didn't they? I guess people have just put them in the drawer and forgotten about them now.
Yes, Yeah, and no one ever won from them. So, that's something. I didn't realise the odds were so bad. So
no, that's not good at all.
I've never really looked at it. But that was a bit shocking when I looked at it.
Our bi-weekly catch-up with Christina Brady from Blacktower Financial Management. Been looking at things in the US, Christina, and the Federal Reserve Chair there, Jerome Powell, has said that he isn't in a hurry to bring interest rates down, which, of course, would affect the rest of the planet. But they've got some worrying things upcoming. The job market situation in the States, of course, the port strike, which has started in the past week, and a clear up from Hurricane Helene. And not to mention, of course, as we have already, the situation in the Middle East. So perhaps we're not going to see that rate that was maybe expected more than 2 weeks or so ago.
Yeah, I don't think we will. Actually, the port strike in America is affecting the import of Spanish olive oil. It's causing a huge problem. So that, everything could have a knock-on effect. But no, the US is in no rush to cut interest rates. It was expected to be quicker than it is. I think the UK, if it does accelerate rate cuts, is acting too hastily. When you cut rates, it can lead to a recession. So they have to be very, very careful. And I think that's why the US is putting the brakes on rate cuts. It doesn't want a recession. It's so near recession. And, the UK is, the EU is. And I would caution rushing in and cutting rates too soon or too aggressively. And
that situation in the Middle East, not just the price of oil, but also getting things through the Panama Canal.
Yeah.
If you think just back to the pandemic or when the canal was blocked for a little while, the issues that we get under those sort of circumstances can be major or have a major influence on how companies can manage their situations.
It does, yeah. Once it takes an extra 10 days at least to get goods through if there's problems and you can't use the canal. I don't think the US government at the moment is strong enough to do anything to force Iran to stop. And I know some people are going to hate me for saying this, but I think if Trump was in power, he knew how to control Iran. And I don't think it would have escalated to such a degree. But now it has. We just need to hope that it doesn't spread even further.
Certainly, the idea seems to be
on that one. It's just just horrible for everyone.
Indeed,
involved,
the idea seems to be that what's happening now is happening now because, of course, the American elections are due next month, and Mr. Trump could well be back in power. It's still pretty much neck and neck.
Exactly, and they want to get it over and all done before he gets into power because they know they can't do it when he's there. And at the moment, Biden is spending most of his time on the beach, and he's
enjoying his old age as he should. Meanwhile,
he should have done that ages ago. We had elder abuse in the US, and I think everyone recognises that now.
If you'd like to get in touch with Christina, you can do it via the usual Bay number 6844555844 for the WhatsApp, or email studio@bayradio.fm, or you can go direct to the Blacktower FM website, or the contact details.
You can. There. Could you please, if you do, just put Christina Brady. If you go into our website, fill in a contact sheet or anything, because then it comes straight through to me. I've had quite a few inquiries in the last week, and all of them have put attention to Christina Brady, so it means it comes to me instantaneously and I can get back to you. If not, it goes to a central desk where they will call you and find out what you need and who you need to talk to. So if you want it to be answered, put for Christina Brady, and then when I talk to you, you can say you heard me on BayRadio or whatever. So info@blacktowerfm.com, or you can always look us up on the website. You can call the office, which is 9650582212. If we're not there, please leave a message. We do get back to everyone. We've got an answer machine which may have my creepy voice on there telling you to leave a message. I'm not sure, but we will get back to you. Remember, when we cover the whole of Spain, and most countries in Europe, US, UK. So if you've got anything at all, you can always come to me and I'll pass it on to the appropriate person in the country that you're living. And that's all I've got to say for this week, I think.
Excellent. Okay, blacktowerfm.com. You'll see the contact us box at the top of the website there, and plenty of information about what we've been talking about today, and of course all the things that Blacktower offer as well. And we'll be back with Christina in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much indeed.